Hello and welcome to the Shakedown. Our mission is to inform people about how the criminal justice system works, the real people impacted by the justice system, and methods to improve justice through compassionate and casual conversation. Hosts of the Shakedown share over 50 years of combined personal experience dealing with Texas prisons and working to change the criminal justice system. And now, here's our show.
All right. Well, welcome to the Shakedown. Tonight, we're going to have a special discussion about solutions in the criminal justice system. And as you may have noticed, we have a special guest with us, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me to this amazing platform. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. So, my name is Zelina Chinwow. I currently live in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And also, I am a licensed therapist with a specialization in impactful leadership. And I mainly help people change their lives, empower them to be great, and live unapologetically. So that's pretty much what I stand for as a therapist.
That, thank you. And you also, we talked a bit before the show. You have um, honestly, you have an extensive history that went into your coaching practice.
Yes.
You, if I remember correctly, you're a veteran as well, and you specialize in DEI as well too.
Yes. I try to kind of keep it brief because I'm really
Yeah.
humble, just want to be a human being for the most part. But yes, I am a US veteran. I served 8 years in the Army, and I'm also a diversity and inclusion expert. And that's pretty much tying into also with childhood trauma. So those are my two specialties that I am the most passionate about.
And I feel like those are two like really important takes too. In this conversation because one thing I have learned is that there are a surprising number of similarities between um, between experiences of people who've been locked up and people who have served,
Yes.
because in both situations you are spending a long period of time away from your loved ones. You are you're in hard you're dealing with a difficult situation in either case. um some cases you don't know how long you're going to be in either situation, and
Right.
correspondence can be one of the biggest things that tie you back to your people at home. So I have found they're very similar situations, and also the fact that of there's dis there's disproportionate effects in society on effects of the criminal justice system
Right.
on different parts of society from yeah from the different parts of the criminal justice system,
Right.
based on the way it's set up currently.
Yes.
Um, so those are things that I feel like are very definitely important skill sets, and I think they're things you definitely bring to this conversation.
Yes. I'm excited about it.
um, so we've actually so um just recently we actually had a big conversation about with someone who with an attorney who was very much like for the status quo, and this is kind of the follow up to that and kind of going into, well, I'll say this. For me personally, I'm very much not on for the status quo. For me, I'm there's it's the status quo being, you have the police, you have the police arrest someone, then that goes they go to jail, they're held or they get a bond, and then they until their sentencing. or
Hmm.
till they have their trial. It's the prosecutors versus the defense, and then you have then you decide guilt or innocence, then you decide the sentence, sometimes separately, sometimes all at once, and then you have one of the main forms of punishment is going to prison,
Yeah.
and then you go um, you go to you serve your sentence, and then you might have it's either prison, probation, fines are kind of the three main ways you
Hmm.
would serve your sentence. And even once you're done with that sentence, um, anyone who has a felony then loses some of their rights
Hmm.
at the end.
Hmm.
Um, and that way that's set up, um, for me personally, I feel like is not is not the most helpful. I don't feel like it's a very once again the way it's set up now. It's looking for problems. It's looking for people who are. It's an idea of this is the we have good people and we have bad people. We need to arrest the bad people, put them away,
Hmm.
and punish them for being bad.
Right.
Um, and um, Dave and Zelina, what are your is that your same thoughts on that, or do you feel like it's a different? Is that do you have a different experience with the justice system?
Dave, you would like to
So
go?
sure. I agree with you, Ryan. And my experience with the judicial system has been it just doesn't work. You know, it's it seems to me it's a system designed to fail,
Yeah.
to keep people going back, especially if you're a person of color, or I should say an of impoverished background.
Hmm.
I should say not. Yeah, it's not a system that I would ever want to see my children or anybody else get involved in because it's just designed to keep people going back.
I totally agree. In most cases, when from a social work perspective or a therapist perspective, one of the things that we specialize in doing when we even discuss the fact of getting better or doing someone coming to therapy is a evaluation. And I think sometimes the judicial system is missing the evaluation part. You hear a lot about it when, people are being tried for court or I guess be, I guess you would say being cognitive enough to withstand trial, but you don't really hear about anything else in terms of what's this person background, and I think that there should be different tiers when we're going to prosecuting individuals. Now, for some crimes that are more heinous, I agree to a certain degree that to protect the public, to protect people, then we can look at it from a different perspective. But if we have repeat offenders in terms of petty crimes or that may be being incarcerated because of drug charges, I think that we should cut the cake sometime. We should slice the cake and say, well, maybe their background, like Dave said, impoverished communities, minorities, does their background have anything to do as to what's resulting in them being in this criminal incident? Maybe it's stealing. Well, maybe we need to look at the fact that are they coming from poverty? Are they a convicted felon? And they can't withhold the proper, I guess you would say, social status in terms of getting a job, a dependable job, a job that where can provide them the opportunity where they don't have to look at committing petty crimes in terms of maintaining livelihood. There's many different factors when you look at this. And as a therapist, I think that it would be great if the judicial system would acknowledge the fact of let's do an extensive background like we do in everything else in the world. We do background checks to get jobs. I think it would be beneficial if we're going to rehabilitate and provide some form of intervention opposed to just locking them and putting them away. I think it's something that needs to be implemented because again, if we look at this, You're paying for it, Dave. I'm paying for it, Ryan. This is taxpayer
Yep.
dollars. This is coming out of our pockets when we're incarcerating individuals on a consistent basis. And at the end of the day, when we're looking at tax dollars, it's the people who are paying the taxes who are basically contributing to this overall issue. But we really don't see it from that perspective. It's, hey, lock them away until it's your loved one. It's lock them away until it's you're in the seat of, oh, wow, I had a great night, had a couple drinks, and now I'm with a DWI, you know? So though there are many different scenarios that we can play out, but sometimes I think the judicial system only wants to look at it as one size fits all. The cookie cutter, everything goes in this box, and that's not how society should be. I think it should be individualized and more focused on rehabilitation, because again, if we look at the outcomes and we look at statistics, what is the percentage of this person going back and committing this crime again if you have not set them up for success? It's a high chance they're going to commit it again. And here again, the taxpayers. We go back into the system again, and now we are paying for them to be a repeat offender on something we could have I guess created in terms of an intervention to keep that at bay and let them become successful citizens of society, like redeem themselves. So, it's almost like a double-headed sword here, and just being citizens and just also being a human being, none of us are perfect. I'm liable just as anyone else to go out and get into anything, especially with statistics, and it go left. So, I do agree with what you're saying.
And I think one of the things that a lot of people don't even think about when they think about when they say like we need to lock this person up, they need to be put away, is that that person more than likely is going to come back out. They're going to come back out eventually.
They don't.
It's true. They really don't. And here's Texas, if you have nowhere to go, so you have no family here, nobody to go, nowhere to go, they give you $50 when you get out, send you to a halfway house that's state approved, and most of those are drug. I mean, there's a lot of drugs there. They have fences around them. It's just like a work release,
Yeah.
and they get another $50 check when they see the parole office. I mean, and what kind of chances that person have, especially if they have a drug habit or did have a drug habit?
Right.
You
I
know,
agree.
I really liked what you said about living an unapologetic life. Because one of the biggest things for me and that facilitated, my change of thinking was I owned everything I've done.
Yes.
And once I owned it and was like, you know what, I did that and I wasn't afraid to admit that to people, then everything changed because all of a sudden I'm not living in shame, fear, or anything else. And, if people have said something, like my kids look me up and they're like, and I was like, yeah, I did all of that. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, and that is such an amazing saying. I love that. Unapologetic life.
Yes, I appreciate you saying that, Dave, because we don't really say it enough. Society says, and I put that in my book, society says, oh, that's, you have to conform, you do something against the social norm, you're being judged. But, life is hell when you're living according to someone else's standards. It's hell, and I think a lot of us do that unknowingly and knowingly every day, and it minimizes our greatest who we are, the greatest person that we are, like you said, I own up to what I did. Hey, nobody's perfect. And the fact that your kids can say, yeah, my dad did this, is not that you're hiding anything. You've opened up the space for them to even say, wow, I can come to my dad and have real conversations. I don't have to look at my dad as a parent of, authoritarian parent of do as I say and not as I do. And a lot of that happens, and I see that, like you stated, in the state of Texas. Texas has one of the most strictest penal systems I've seen in my life. I wouldn't even want to be caught littering in Texas, okay? Listen, I'll keep my Starbucks cup in my car. Um, listen, and also Louisiana. I'm in Louisiana, so coming from states where the penal system is just gruesome at times, in terms of how we just don't recognize the person, I think again has a lot to do with how the world sees people who've convicted crimes. I hate to use the word felon. I hate to use the word criminal. I did an act. God, God, it doesn't make up who I am. But like you said, David, I had to make peace with that. And I think that's the biggest part of it because society is going to judge regardless, especially people who've been in situations that the world may deem as oh so horrible, especially crime related. But you have to make peace with the past and say, look, this is who I was, this is who I am, and I'm gonna do it unapologetic. So you're right, a lot of this has to go back to not only the system but also the person, because there's new society standards every day. I mean, and I'm gonna be honest, just to be honest, I'm gonna say this. It really came to me in the state of the world that we're in. And this is gonna be so crazy, but I'm gonna say it. One thing that I find very radical about our previous president is the fact that he says and does what he wants to do. Okay, we see how society standards just recently it goes into who you know and who you are. This president, previous president, has a mugshot. He has a mugshot. Okay. So, and with the mugshot, I heard him say recently, in the African American community, they're gonna support because guess what? It's relatable now. The previous president, knows what it's like to be criminalized and judged on something that he feels is unfair. And in my mind, I was like, whoa, this could make waves. Because even though in the same aspect of him doing that, it's the people that find it relatable. I mean, like, oh my God, he has a mugshot. He's walking around, and his his alibi is, I didn't do that. And I said, wow, well, we live in a world where a lot of people have done crimes and done things, or they have not done, but been accused falsely. So to me, it's almost like, if we're going to look at it from a positive perspective, if in the event he wins the election and he does have a mugshot, that can open up so many doors of intervention and change. Because again, he's been on the other side. If I want to look at the, silver lining in this, we're looking at judicial. So that's my joke of the day. I'm like, there's a mugshot. He's like anybody else now.
You can find Shakedown merch, graphic novels, and other projects at waywordpress.com. That's WAYWORD press.com. If you would like to support The Shakedown, get exclusive content, and watch episodes live, you can support us at patreon.com/The Shakedown. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment to give Malone that inner peace he so richly deserves.